All right. Well, Missouri beat Kansas State. Florida State nearly choked away a big lead to Boston College, but escaped. LSU destroyed Mississippi State, and Penn State on the road, after struggling for about 3 quarters, finally put it away. What a slate of noon games so far. I'm going to be talking about these different games and reacting to them for, I would say, about 20 minutes. First and foremost, checking out, I would say Penn State, Illinois. That was the main game that I was focused on and the one that I was covering today. The Nittany Lions, 30-13, and feel free to comment your reactions in the live chat, and I'll respond to them. Illinois just turned it over too much. That's the simple answer. Altmaier was 15 of 28 with 4 interceptions. He constantly tried to target Penn State's cornerbacks and safeties, defensive backs, and one-on-one coverage. He threw a blind interception to Abdul Carter, who's just a phenomenal player. And at the end of the day, Penn State scored 30 points. They didn't even have 400 total yards, but the reason they scored those 30 points is because of Illinois' 5 turnovers. And Penn State had the ball for 32 minutes, and they they grinded out a win. They went on the road, and they won. And I have to say that looking at Penn State, they were definitely uninspired. Illinois, definitely an inferior team, and Penn State was definitely looking for Iowa. That's the team that they were looking ahead to. That was the game they were looking ahead to. Music Me 007, or Music for Me 007, says, Florida State should fall in the polls, but oh no, that only applies to Ohio State when they win. Oh yes, the beautiful hypocrisy. Florida State is definitely falling in my poll. That's why I didn't have Florida State in my top 4. My top 25, and I'll explain this in the video that I released this week, it's not designed to be reactive. So when Texas or Florida State blow out a good team, I gotta see more from you before I put you in my top 4, because as far as I'm concerned, Michigan, Georgia, who's currently down to South Carolina, but I'm confident they'll blow out the Gamecocks eventually, Ohio State and Washington, in my mind, are more proven than you are if you're Florida State. And if you're Texas, just based on your history and also some questions I have even about players like Quinn Ewers and the defense, I think that Penn State's more proven than you. And that's not because I, despise your program or anything. It's because you need to prove to me and to college football that you are a great team. Howdy, Justin Rogie. Welcome to the show. Or maybe it's Rog and the E is silent. Correct me if I mispronounced your name. But Penn State looked good overall. Drew Aller definitely has some accuracy issues. He reminds me of J.J. McCarthy with a slower scrambling ability but a better power running ability, which bodes well for Penn State both this year and next year. McCarthy had some really good moments last year as a Michigan quarterback. Drew Aller threw one long dime to Liam Clifford to put his team in a position for an Alex Falcons 28-yard field goal before halftime. Definitely some highs, some lows as well when you're 16 of 33 for 208 yards. It's not a good day, but he didn't turn over the ball. He did his job, and for that I have to give Drew Aller props and James Franklin props for going on the road. Penn State in this game rushed for 4.1 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns, 164 rushing yards. At the end of the day, their offensive line and also defensive line, I think, still has questions, in my opinion. But overall, their wide receivers are disciplined. They run good routes. Their secondary is amazing, very opportunistic. The style of defense that Manny Diaz runs is, call it what it is, it's incredible, honestly. Especially against these lesser teams. I think against Michigan and Ohio State, there will definitely be a much bigger test for this defense for Penn State. But against inferior competition like Illinois, they feast. I mean, Penn State had 2 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 3 passes defended, and 4 interceptions. Just an amazing defensive performance, Illinois only scored 13 points. Reggie Love, the third, led the team in rushing with 12 carries, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Jerzon Newton, he was phenomenal today. Newton had several pass deflections. He had one. He also had a tackle for loss and 6 total tackles. And he had constant pressure on Aller, forcing him to make several inaccurate and dangerous throws. And thank you, Justin, for letting me know. Brownie Talks Sports. I'm not going to overreact to Florida State's win. I had Florida State at 3 to start the season. Well, then from your perspective, don't react. If you've had them as a top 4 team from the preseason, don't overreact and drop them either. I think there's an argument for Florida State to be top 4. I just don't like these overreactive polls that fluctuate based off of an early week of games or an early series of games. I don't like being overreactive here whatsoever. I don't think it's wise. But we talked about Penn State, Illinois. Really, the Fighting Illini, they had the better defensive line. They, in my opinion, had comparable special teams. The game went how I thought, except Illinois turned it over a lot more than I expected. They were worse than I thought. Penn State performed at about the same level. Consequentially, Penn State covered when I picked Illinois to cover. So 30-13 Nittany Lions, great game. This is just a live reaction to all the noon games. There will be individual reaction videos posted Sunday morning, some, but mostly throughout the day Sunday, and also Monday as well. So subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified when I release those reaction videos. Let's move on to LSU and Mississippi State. We'll save the best for last in Florida State and Boston College. LSU 41, Mississippi State 14. The Tigers dominated. They played angry. Jaden Daniels averaged over 10 yards per pass attempt. He had 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. LSU was only favored by 9.5, and several people looked at this game as an upset spot, which to me didn't make any sense. Will Rogers and Zach Arnett decided they wanted to pass the ball more offensively, and that never worked out for him. Will Rogers only averaged 3.7 yards per pass attempt, and I think that he is missing the late Mike Leach's air raid scheme, and rest in peace to Mike Leach. Mississippi State looks horrible. They couldn't tackle, they couldn't pass, they struggled to run the football until late. In LSU with Jaden Daniels, Logan Diggs, Josh Williams, Noah Kane, John Emery Jr., Caleb Jackson, they pounded it down Mississippi State's throats, but more importantly than that, they opened it up through the air. And Malik Neighbors had 13 receptions for 239 yards. He averaged nearly 20 yards per reception, and he had 2 receiving touchdowns. And on average, LSU's entire team averaged 11.8 yards per reception, so Malik Neighbors had a very explosive game, definitely one of the better wide receivers in the nation. It goes to show how good Florida State's defense can be. They weren't very good against Boston College, but we'll get to that later. Music for me 007 said Michigan will still run for 350 plus. Now the Ohio State game, that's going to be a tough one against Penn State. Yeah, Michigan and Ohio State, in my opinion, watching Penn State play Illinois, that's I think looking at how Penn State played, that's sort of what I expected to happen for the most part. And if you're Penn State, you have to shore up the offensive line and the defensive line. For LSU, they're good. They might be better than Alabama. We'll have to see. Mississippi State, I think, is a 5-7, 6-6 type football team, if you really want to think about it. Garrett Nussmeier even got some action for LSU. Nearly 400 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. They burned Mississippi State 41-14. I didn't watch as much of this game as I did Penn State and Illinois. That was the game that I mainly focused on. But I watched almost the entirety of the first half, tuned in for a little bit of the third quarter, and looking at the stat sheet, the game that I saw in the first half just continued. I mean, Jaden Daniels, scramble, throw, touchdown here and there. to whether it was to Malik Neighbors or taking it in with himself. It was just incredible. LSU is playing angry. They are enraged. And if you're Brian Kelly, and if you're the LSU locker room, you have to be thinking to yourself, in my opinion, got to be thinking to yourself, what happens if they continue their momentum from leading Florida State at the half? Because right now they look really good. Again, they only have 2 wins, so I don't want to overreact too much, and I won't. But LSU is a good football team, and Brian Kelly knows what he's doing, and I don't think that this is the type of team that is going to lose to inferior opponents. I don't think that's what Brian Kelly typically does. He doesn't lose to these inferior opponents whatsoever. But against the bigger competition, that's where he has struggled in the past. I'm very curious to see what they do against Alabama. Texas A&M has a good offense that can target a weaker LSU secondary that has questions. A lot of hope and promise for LSU. It's back to the drawing board for Mississippi State. 41-14, the Bayou Bengals wreck their competition. Let's talk about Kansas State and Missouri, but before we do so, I'm going to revisit the comment section and see what all of you guys are thinking. Alabama just runs the kickoff back for a touchdown. Well, something that Alabama has been good at this year, I would say, is special teams. Brownie Talk Sports, Minnesota's defense was looking really nice until that touchdown. Same with the offense until the pick. They were rolling right through UNC's defense. This is classic Minnesota football. I am going to be reacting to that game for sure later in the day. Looks like they're Minnesota's 4th and 10 at their own 42, according to ESPN. Kansas State, 27, Missouri, 30. I picked Kansas State to win, and I got that wrong. Missouri had a walk-off field goal and to win. The SEC finally beat a ranked opponent. I think that was the first ranked opponent they have beaten, the conference has, all season long. Brady Cook did a lot better than I expected. He averaged 10 yards per pass attempt. I did not think he was going to be able to target that weak Kansas State secondary, but he did. Will Howard also had a good game through the air, but he only averaged 7 yards per pass attempt, and he also threw an interception, so Brady Cook definitely had the better game. Both teams struggled to run the football. Kansas State only averaging 3.9 yards per carry, Missouri averaging 2.6. Luther Burden, I think that he's a game changer. 7 receptions, over 100 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. We knew that entering this game that he was a game changer. But with Brady Cook being able to make accurate passes, have a good completion percentage, and with Eli Drinkwitz and Missouri drawing up plays to get the ball deep in the passing game to compensate for that run game, beautiful upset. Missouri is now 3-0 at home. They had a close win over Middle Tennessee State last week, and I got to think that they were looking ahead to Kansas State. And once again, a close game, but a win nonetheless, this time against a team who is one of the better rosters and better teams, period, amen, in the Big 12, if we're being real here. Michigan Yankee, go blue indeed. I look at Kansas State, and I look at Missouri, and Kansas State's probably going to drop in my rankings. Missouri will probably rise. And then finally, Florida State and Boston College. Also, Western Michigan leads Iowa, which is the most toxic thing I've seen all day, but it is what it is. If you're Florida State, you led 31-10 in the third quarter, like late third quarter. Boston College went on a 19-0 run. If Boston College doesn't miss their extra point, they probably end up winning this game. So errors and miscues for Boston College were huge. Florida State had no business only winning by 2. They should have pulled away, but they took their foot off the gas far too soon. Florida State had 2 fumbles lost. 1 was recovered for a touchdown. Boston College had 17 penalties for 131 yards. That's insane. That's why they lost the game. Half those penalties are taken away, and the extra point is made, just the little things. Boston College wins, and they have one of the most intriguing resumes in all of college football. But it couldn't happen that way. Florida State was 1 of 9 on third down. They were 1 of 1 on fourth down. They averaged 8.8 yards per pass and only 3.7 yards per rush. Florida State's leading rusher was not even Trey Benson. He had 12 carries for only 38 yards. So Florida State now consistently has had some issues running the football with efficiency, and Jordan Travis for sure is not yet a consistently great quarterback. Thomas Castellanos, he looked good. 305 passing yards, 33 attempts, 20 completions, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, averaged 9.2 average yards per pass attempt. And he also had 95 rushing yards for a touchdown. Definitely, with 400 total yards on a bad BC team, the MVP. Don't even give the MVP to Florida State. Give it to Thomas Castellanos, their quarterback. Amazing player, did his best, but at the end of the day, Florida State has too much depth and too much talent, and Boston College made too many mistakes to win, which is very unfortunate. I mean, we talk about chaos here, and I picked Florida State to win and cover, so you might think that selfishly I want them to win, and to a certain degree that's true. But here we are, and college football is all about chaos. I mean, I'm a Michigan fan, and there are very few things that I want, even if it's things that I want to be right on. There are very few things that no matter what I will just cling to and that I will want to happen. And that's Michigan, my team, winning every one of their games, but I will not hold back if they looked bad or if they look like the best team in the country. I'll be objective about it. And for the rest of the Big Ten, it's Ohio State going undefeated into the game because I want that game to be amazing. It's been amazing for the past 2 seasons. There have been games before Harbaugh ended his losing streak against Ohio State that were amazing. 2016, 2017 was closer than many would have expected, and that was a game for 3.5 quarters. And I also want the Big Ten to look good, and I want chaos to happen. But there aren't very many non-negotiables related to specific teams that I want. And, yeah, I mean, honestly, go chaos, as one of my subscribers, Amazing, puts it. Go chaos. And Boston College nearly achieved chaos. You know, one of the announcers in the BC game was questioning whether going for it on fourth down was correct, and I'm thinking in my mind, you want to be aggressive here if you're BC, and Castellanos took it on 4th and 2, and he ran it right into the end zone. I mean, this game was so good. Boston College nearly came back, but they just fell short. So that's just a brief reaction to those 4 games. This is something new for me, so if there was a lot of analysis that you missed, don't be concerned. There will be reactions to the Penn State-Illinois game, for sure. The other games, the other 3 games, I don't know if there will be reaction videos for those, probably not, but definitely for Penn State-Illinois, there will be a reaction video dedicated to that game released tomorrow. So subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified when that video releases. This is something new for me, if I'm being honest. The short, quick analysis, all of that stuff, that's very new for me. So be patient. I'm trying to be patient with myself, but expect me to get better at this. I might change this up too because I'm experimenting with, going live right after games are over and giving an instant reaction. My subscribers said they wanted more content, so this is a way I can give them more content. But thank you all for watching. It's been about 20 minutes. I'm going to get back to watching some college football, and I will see you all later today. There should be another one of these reaction videos after the 3:30 games have concluded, most likely at halftime of the Michigan State-Washington game, as that starts at 5 p.m., and I want to watch every minute of that game. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all around. Bye-bye.